An anonymous NBA executive has dropped a bombshell Chicago Bulls trade report that has fans waiting to see what this saga is going to end with Coby White and his future with the team, especially when it involves a lot of younger players as well, and also with the Josh Giddey saga still going on when it comes to that contract extension. There's a lot to go over, guys, and we are going to jump right into it. But before we do that, if you're part of that 76% that's not subscribed to Bulls Digest, make sure to subscribe for daily Chicago Bulls updates. We got a lot of good videos coming out at you guys every single day that you do not want to miss out on. We have all the latest Chicago Bulls updates, so make sure to subscribe and have those post notifications on. But let's jump into the video, guys. There is a lot to go over on the Chicago Bulls right now. As we know, there has been some talk surrounding Coby White and his future with the Bulls. He's been someone who's been a trade candidate for years now, and it really felt like last season there was a very, very real world where Coby White was going to get moved at the deadline. A bunch of teams did have interest in the services of White, seeing him as a guy who would be able to give a positive impact to any kind of contender possible. And with the Bulls not being contenders last year or not being contenders this year, White has continually found himself in a lot of trade discussions, rumors, reports, and everything along those lines. And there's been a general sort of feeling out process and sort of wondering what exactly Arturas Karnisovas and the Bulls are planning with Coby White for his future of the team. There's a lot to consider with it, and there's also a key factor that plays into Coby White being traded specifically, and we are going to talk about that. But just diving in to the initial report from an NBA executive, this anonymous NBA executive said, I know multiple teams tried to trade for Coby White this summer. There was some chatter that he was almost traded on draft night. The Bulls love him, though. He's not going anywhere. They have shut down trade inquiries for him thus far. Now, White last season had his best NBA year. He put up 20.4 points per game, nearly 4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. He shot 45% from the field and 37% from 3. White was an excellent player, don't get me wrong, and his numbers improved and improved and improved throughout the entire season. We saw Coby White show up and have a good start to the year and look like the normal Coby White, and then we saw the full-blown breakout. After the trade deadline and All-Star break were over, Coby White took over for the Chicago Bulls when it came to scoring, putting up 24.5 points per game in 34 minutes and doing it on great efficiency, shooting 49% from the field and 37% from 3. White's efficiency did not drop at all, and in fact went up as time went on once he became that lead scorer. He always knew he could be that type of guy, and he always showed those flashes to be an elite scorer for the Bulls, and then he did it towards his final real stretch of the year in those 26 games. He showed that he was that guy and that he wants to be that guy going forwards for the Bulls, or if he wants to go be a more secondary or tertiary scorer on a contending team. That's his other option here. Now, White is not old. It's the big thing about him. However, he has been on the Bulls for a while now, and there has just been a ton of discussion surrounding what his future looks like with the team. I mean, as of right now, we see that Coby White's contract, he's in his final year before he hits unrestricted free agency. That's definitely scary for Bulls fans because when you look at it, we could think about the arguments for him to stay. You'll be the leading scorer. You stick around with that home cooking. We're going to start building up with this young talent now. We're finally going to be building things the right way. But then you look in the other direction of Coby White and you see, well, you're 26 years old. You're in store for a very nice contract. You'd probably have to take a discount to go back to the Bulls, something we will get into in a little bit in this video as well. It ties into a lot. And on top of that, last and most certainly not least, you also are still going to be on the Bulls, a team that has been winning around 44 games every single season for the last 4 to 5 years. There's been a play-in team, a play-in team, a play-in team, a play-in team constantly. You get to keep doing that for the foreseeable future right now. Do you want to do that, or do you want to go off and try to win? That's when it becomes tough because Coby White's likely going to choose the latter and be like, nope, I'm bolting. I'm going to get a lot more money somewhere else. I'm leaving. 15 teams, as of right now, will have cap space next summer, and that does cause some concern for the Bulls because they won't be able to do what they're doing with Josh Giddey right now and be able to say, they'll be able to kind of have the opportunity to lowball him because of this whole situation. And it makes things difficult when you look just at the Bulls, when you look at the depth chart for them. Obviously, this doesn't involve Giddey because he's still a free agent, though he will be back with the Bulls. I'd be stunned if he's not. So imagine that you do have Giddey as the starting point guard right now. That moves Ayo Dosunmu to your backup point guard spot. You got Coby White at the 2, Isaac Okoro at the 3, Buzelis at the 4, and Vuce at the 5. Vuce obviously isn't long for the Bulls either, but outside of that, you see a lot of this young core and just this core in general except for maybe Coby White, who looks like a very possible trade candidate. And that does make things interesting. Who goes to that 2 spot? Do you try putting Pat Williams back in the starting lineup and see if things can work now that Coby White, a real scorer, is gone, and now it becomes Josh Giddey's team fully? Buzelis will obviously get a lot more touches if Vooch is gone as well. It gives Pat the opportunity to try to play up to his contract, where the Bulls could either move him or just keep him and see if he can develop, if he can start getting more shots, if he becomes more of an aggressive scorer, if that'll really work out. But there's also a lot else to consider with this Bulls team, because there's a lot of routes they can go with this. Now, as Grant Hughes mentioned from Bleacher Report, the only argument against the Chicago Bulls shopping Coby White at the deadline is that the franchise almost never does the shrewd, difficult thing. Every other factor points to the 25-year-old guard changing teams. Playing out the last year of his contract, White is in line to just make $12.9 million in 2025-26. The most Chicago can offer in an extension is $89 million over 4 years, based on a starting salary worth 140% of that $12.9 million figure. That's not nearly enough for Coby White, who could easily fetch $25 to $30 million per season on the open market. Now, obviously, that's when things become an emergency, like you hear with the sirens outside, because now what you see is Coby White in a real situation where he's not going to be able to get the same amount of money that he'd be able to get from the Bulls from other teams. So that's where things become a serious cause for concern. I also can't get out of my head that I pronounced 12 like 12. That's just really sticking in my head right now, guys. But to keep moving forwards with this video, that's the big thing that we have to look at here for the Bulls. Are we going to see Coby White stick around? Or are we going to see Arturas finally make the move we've been waiting for, trading Coby White for actual value, getting more rebuilding pieces as time goes on as well? Two things that would be huge for this team, instead of just letting Coby White walk in free agency in a year, which would just be such a bad move. That's, I would say, a fireable offense for Karnisovas. Now, when we just take a look at everything and look at the other options to start next to Josh Giddey, if White is to get traded, you see Dosunmu, who last year put up 12 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, is a solid defender, isn't the world's greatest shooter, so you do have to consider that, especially when you're on the wing next to Isaac Okoro, who has not been a consistent three-point shooter throughout his career. You can use Dosunmu, but you have a few options here. You could also go with Dalen Terry, who obviously has not had the most time in the NBA, but if you want to start to give him a boost, you could do this. You could obviously do Pat Williams as well instead of Terry, but Terry is just another option as well. Or you could look towards Kevin Huerter and try to rebuild Huerter's value. Now, he only shot 34% from 3 last year, which is way down for Kevin Huerter standards, but he did still shoot 39% on corner 3. So if you try to use Kevin Huerter and get that value back up, he could very likely become another trade chip to use at the deadline for a team that needs a shooter when they see Kevin Huerter's really back shooting well again, putting up, if he could still put up around 10 points per game or even increase that because his shots are going down more. It would be great for the Bulls going forwards as well, and I think that this would be huge for the team, and I think that's definitely a move that they should search into and look at. Now, Josh Giddey, this all affects him because you have to decide with these contract extensions. If you're giving Giddey one, you're kind of conceding to the fact that you know you're not going to be able to pay Coby White as well, and you kind of do just let Coby White walk. Giddey was phenomenal after the All-Star break as well, putting up 21 points per game, nearly 11 rebounds, and 9 assists, getting a steal and a half, shooting 46% from 3. This is the guy who you keep in this scenario. You could pay him more. You can lock him up for a long time. You don't have to worry about him leaving in free agency if you do that. And then you move on from Coby White. You have one of your guards of the future just like that. And he's a bigger guard, which makes things interesting considering when we saw the NBA Finals, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander versus Tyrese Haliburton, they're both bigger point guards. So you see that with Giddey. It is sort of the way, like, almost if you want to call it the meta of, like, what the NBA is looking at right now. And then also you have Noah Essengay, who last year, again, the shooting is not exactly ideal next to Josh Giddey and Isaac Okoro. Not that Giddey's a bad shooter at all, but, like, he's just not lights out, and you would want a lights out shooter if you have Essengay and Isaac Okoro on your wings, your shooting is going to be pretty lackluster, especially Buzelis is not some lights-out shooter either. So it would cause shooting concerns, could probably mess with Josh Giddey. But Essengay also is someone who you could try to boost up if you are to trade Coby White away, because it clears up a little more minutes for him as well, which is something the Bulls have to consider. Look, I'm going to be honest, the Bulls, they have to trade Coby White. There's no other way, or he leaves in free agency, and that makes things 20 times worse. Guys, what do you think should happen? What do you want to see Coby White get traded for? What's the ideal trade scenario for you? Comment that down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. I'll let you know what I think about it. I'm trying to get better at answering these comments. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I'll catch you later.